All right, good morning and welcome to this week's Team Kentucky Update. We're going to start with some great economic development news to share. As this week, I'll be highlighting four projects across the state that are investing nearly $200 million and creating close to 400 full-time jobs for our residents. First up is Log Still Distillery, which I had the opportunity to visit earlier this week, and the progress of this Nelson County operation is really amazing to see. On Tuesday, we cut the ribbon for the distillery, which has grown to a more than $60 million project that's going to create at least 146 full-time jobs. And they are well on their way to meeting that goal of job creation. Already, they've filled 72 full-time positions, as well as 14 part-time and 229 seasonal roles. And this operation is much more than just a distillery. It is truly a tourist destination that includes an amphitheater where they're bringing in big-time country music acts and other artists. It has a tasting room, train depot, bed and breakfast, and several other amenities in the works. Log Still is a wonderful addition to the Central Kentucky and our thriving bourbon and spirits industry. And I greatly look forward to the continued growth of its Monks Road and Rattle and Snap brands. Thank you to the company's leader for locating in the Commonwealth and creating quality jobs for our residents. We also have Inception, which held an opening for its new Louisville headquarters on Monday. Inception is a supply chain digitization company that operates a cloud-based digital commerce platform. The service provides industrial manufacturers with secure shipments using an innovative, user-friendly interface. The company was founded just 2 years ago in California, and it is growing fast. This year alone, Inception's domestic logistics business has expanded by more than 180%. I am so glad to welcome the company's expanded presence in Kentucky. This headquarters project is a $125 million investment. It is creating 200 full-time jobs in Jefferson County. I look forward to seeing this company grow in our state and becoming an even bigger part of our Kentucky communities. Next up is Renfro Supply Company, which is celebrating a century of operations in Whitley County. Renfro is one of the region's largest wholesalers, and the company has seen a rise in demand, requiring additional space. This $8.5 million project will include a 51,000 square foot facility on 6 acres in Williamsburg. And that's going to allow Renfro Supply to provide the full product offerings of a convenience store, in addition to serving other businesses and institutions such as restaurants, retail stores, and schools. The investment will create 25 full-time jobs for Kentuckians, more than doubling that company's employment, which will reach 46. Renfro was founded in 1922 and had operated out of the same building for 100 years. And during that time, the company's delivered over 9 million products to customers throughout Kentucky and the surrounding region, with product offerings of more than 10,000 different items. Distribution and logistics is at the center of our recent economic success, and that is no small part due to businesses like Renfro Supply. The expanded operation also builds on our growing agritech sector, which now employs over 20,000 Kentuckians. I want to thank the leaders at Renfro Supply for their continued faith in our state's workforce, and I hope the company operates here another 100 years. And finally, we have Chemical and Industrial Engineering Incorporated, also known as CNI. CNI is a full-service engineering firm that was founded in Louisville 40 years ago. The company provides services to a range of industries that include petroleum refining, distilled spirits, chemicals, food and beverage, consumer packaged goods, and the utilities market. In fact, Engineering News Record ranked CNI among the top 15 companies in the United States providing engineer services within the petroleum refining industry. Currently, the company employs about 150 people in the Louisville metro area, which we're grateful for. But this more than $250,000 investment will create another 24 full-time jobs on top of that. The project will allow CNI's leaders to invest in state-of-the-art technology, such as drones, scanners, engineering software, and IT infrastructure. And it will help them provide services to an increasingly diverse clientele across Kentucky. Engineering services is a growing sector, in Kentucky currently employs about 10,600 people throughout our state. And over 1,000 engineering service operations in the Commonwealth produce $1.4 billion in GDP for our state. That was in 2021. I'm thrilled to see C&I build on that foundation. Thank you to this incredible company for continuing to grow in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We will not let you down. All right, next, let's get an update on Eastern Kentucky flooding. As of today, 40 fatalities in 6 counties, 8 in Breathitt, 2 in Clay, 19 in Knott, 3 in Letcher, 7 in Perry, and 1 in Pike. Of course, we still have 2 missing individuals. That's Vanessa Baker, a 60-year-old female, and Nancy Cundiff, a 29-year-old female. Both are from the Lost Creek community in Breathitt County. We continue our search for them, and we will continue that search. We got some good news today on water outages and connections. The water for the village of Buckhorn and Buckhorn Lake State Resort Park are now fully operational, and the park is completely reconnected to city water. All drinking water systems are now operational. So as we sit here today, 52 service connections are without water. 330 service connections are under boiled water advisory. That is so much lower than it has been for most of the weeks that followed. 2 water systems that are under limited operations due to storm damage to their distribution systems. That's the Breathitt County Water District and the Hazard County Water District. Breathitt County, 32 connections without water. Hazard, 20. Shelters and state parks. 338 people are sheltering at Jenny Wiley State Resort Park, Buckhorn Lake State Resort Park, and Carr Creek State Park. Jenny Wiley has 178. Buckhorn has 136. Carr Creek has 24. We're also sheltering 15 individuals in 5 hotels in Eastern Kentucky. As a FEMA update, total dollar approved for individuals and household program, more than $65.8 million. Total valid applications received, 13,935. Total applications approved for assistance, 7,348. I think that's 52.7%, which is the highest percentage that we have seen thus far in response to the flooding. The breakdown of that $65.8 million is $54.6 million in housing assistance grants and $11.2 million in other needs assistance. I want to remind everybody of the FEMA assistance locations. Those are the disaster recovery centers. If we can put those up, these are the places that you can go and talk to somebody in FEMA, someone with decision-making authority. This is the first time folks on the ground have had decision-making authority. If your claim's been denied, if your claim's not enough, if you were one of the ones that got $170 something that was meant for a consultant to give you an estimate, you want to make sure you take that estimate or any questions and talk to someone in person. Hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, then 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Sunday. Keep pursuing your claim. Make somebody look you in the eye and tell you what else you need. We've seen FEMA do things in Kentucky that they've never done before, and that's going to help other areas that are hit by natural disasters. But we still need better for our people. Do not lose the faith. Keep appealing. Keep working. If you have been just wiped out, we want to make sure you get the largest amount that you can from what's available under FEMA. Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief Fund, now 37,060 donations, $9,664,160 have been given, and we are grateful. Remember, this is the only fund that's fully transparent, subject to open records, as well as legislative oversight, where we handle all the administrative fees. So every dollar, with the exception of some credit card processing fees that we can't get around, goes to the impacted community and families that have suffered. So to date, we made 40 funeral payments going out, totaling $400,000. And new payments are going out this week on that $500 we're providing to anyone and everyone that was approved for the FEMA individual assistance, no matter how large or small that was. So we think this week we're going to be getting out and into next week. This is Thursday. Over the coming days, we'll be getting out 6,507 checks in this first batch, each for $500. That'll total $3,253,500 in payments. This is very similar to what we were able to do in Western Kentucky to meet the immediate needs, or some immediate needs, of these families. You do not have to apply. We have your information through FEMA. We're going to get these dollars in the mail to you. This donations that we have had since the last Team Kentucky update that we greatly appreciate. Humana Inc., $250,000, one of the larger donations. We greatly appreciate Humana. Liberty Utilities, $50,000. For Roses, $50,000. And the bourbon industry has been wonderful. This is above and beyond, I think, 1.4 million that's been donated by the industry thus far. Chevron Products Company, $25,000. Altria, $25,000. North American Stainless, $18,200. United Way of Laurel County, $16,200. There's lots of others, but thank you to those groups and to everybody who's donating. It's going to provide a lot of help to families that need it. Private bridges, 475 private bridges have been registered. 314 assessments have been completed. They're being evaluated by KYTC and FEMA. Remember, the evaluation doesn't mean that they necessarily meet eligibility for emergency access. And that's what transportation is working on right now, where emergency access is required. 558 loads of debris were removed Wednesday from the right-of-way and the waterway. They amount to 7,351 tons. Total debris removed through Wednesday, 11,863 loads. That's 171,089 tons. It is incredible to drive along the creek, either between Hazard and Jackson or other areas that were just littered with the remnants of people's homes, and see it almost completely cleaned up. You know, where we stopped with the president, where the buses had been moved, had actually been thrust through buildings, entirely cleaned up now. Really incredible work being done out there. As an estimate, we believe right now about $11.5 million worth of work has been done for debris removal in waterways, and $18.6 million of work has been done for right-of-way debris. So a total about $30.1 million of work done thus far in debris removal. Everybody out there that's doing it, keep it up. We appreciate you. Our Commonwealth Sheltering Program has also seen some really significant additions. Really pleased at how hard our folks are working at getting travel trailers to the area and getting them hooked up. Remember, with our deal with Louisiana that opened up hundreds of additional travel trailers, our issue now is safe sites where we have the water and the electric and everything we need to get these hooked up. So we now have 248 travel trailers that are at locations in Eastern Kentucky. Remember, we never had more than, I think, 82, 83 that were filled at any point in Western Kentucky. 248 on site, 132 are occupied right now, sheltering 371 individuals. Now, I want to talk about this 13 number that says transitioned out. This is actually a really good number. So what we saw in the West is people come into travel trailers to get stabilized. You know, I saw on the news a story about one of the individuals that was living on a trampoline, now in a travel trailer. But it is, you know, a stabilization period. These 13 households have found more permanent housing. And so it's a really good sign as we get people in. They know that they can stay there, but then they are able to find longer term housing. So that's a number we are going to keep recording. That's a really positive number for us. changes since the last time we talked. The Letcher County, we now have not only 25 that we got ready, but 25 are already occupied. The Mine Made Park in Knott County has a lot more on site. Remember, we were somewhere around 25, 30, now 54 that are on there. Jenny Wiley has amped up too with more travel trailers that have arrived and that they are working to get occupied. We've now got them down in Pike County, Shelby Valley. They're working on getting those hooked up so that they can ultimately be occupied as well. And now also in Clay County as well. The Letcher County was a real good sign to see, getting that site fully operational. A lot of people there needing help. I hope this gives folks some hope, and there are more travel trailers on the way. Disaster unemployment assistance. Lee County residents are now eligible for this in addition to the others. You can apply for them through the Kentucky Career Center website, which is up here, or by calling this number. What's important is the deadline. It is October the 10th. So if you were going to seek disaster unemployment assistance, that deadline is October the 10th. National Flood Insurance Program now paid out $16.5 million. U.S. Small Business Association, $40.7 million. And on Tuesday, I announced the first of many awards from the Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund, a fund that was passed by the legislature during a special session that was special. It wasn't partisan, it wasn't bipartisan, it was nonpartisan, working to unlock about $213 million to help over the next 6 or so months in Eastern Kentucky. So Knott County will receive $531,000 to help ease some of the financial strain that the community has faced. And Letcher County has also been approved for $531,000. $220,000 of that is to engage a floodplain coordinator and structural engineer. Together, this first round is about $1.2 million. There'll be many applications to come, and these counties will also come back and apply. It's not a one-time, it's as you incur costs. Greatly appreciate the legislature working with us on this fund. It's going to help a lot of people. All right, moving to some other topics. Today, U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg announced the administration has awarded $1.5 billion from the Popular Infrastructure for Rebuilding America, a competitive grant program. A project in Kentucky was selected amongst that group. It is a $17.3 million grant for the Rockport Bridge Rehabilitation Freight Rail Project. It is in the Green River Area Development District, and USDOT is investing in the rehabilitation of the 100-year-old Rockport Railroad Bridge that's a vital link for transportation of commodities such as chemicals, grain, coal, lumber, and steel. We appreciate that investment. All right, with a new report out on inflation, I want to talk for a minute on that, but I want to start with good news since we are always bombarded, it seems, by this crisis and that crisis. I want to start by talking about gas prices because gas prices represent the good news that's out there. Gas prices have dropped once again. In fact, I saw something in Frankfurt this morning. If we've got it, gas is under $3. Obviously, gas had gotten up to a record high of $4.79 at one point. This is with the national average of $5. This is the first time in a while I have seen gas under $3. That is a huge relief. And according to AAA, if we can go back, the average gas price across Kentucky is now down to $3.31. I believe it's been dropping for about 100 plus days. But our average price is nearly 40 cents below the national average of $3.69.8. And throughout these difficult inflationary months, we have always been below and significantly below the national average. The average right now in Hopkinsville is $3.19, in Bowling Green $3.31, in Covington $3.38. I know that those prices are still challenging, but they're moving the right way. but I do want to talk because inflation is still with us, especially on food prices and others, about some steps that we've taken to make sure there are more dollars in people's pockets or to advise them of some programs that are out there that can help. And I want to make sure families have this information and can take advantage of it. First thing we did is through an executive order and later a statute, froze the rate on vehicle property taxes for 2 years. That's expected to save Kentuckians $340 million. In February, I've supported legislation to cut the sales tax from 6% to 5%. That would have made things cost less. The legislature didn't agree, and that would have saved us $873 million had they agreed. But in March, I joined 6 other governors in sending a letter to congressional leadership asking them to suspend the federal gas tax. In June, I filed an emergency regulation that froze the state gas tax. It was going to go up. Listen, as governor, I can't control gas prices, but a state statute was going to make them go up. This was under our control, and we had to act. Save Kentuckians $35.4 million. I've asked top administrators in the EPA to look at the reformulated fuel requirement and to suspend it at least in the near term. They've said no, but that's no for now. And then we declared a state of emergency and activated state price gouging laws to make sure that people weren't out there taking advantage of us. Listen, we got to get through these tough days to get to really exciting days, all these jobs that we're announcing. And so I want to make sure we put up the programs that we have been highlighting that can help people when they're having a tough time at the end of the week or at the end of the month. Certainly, the Healthy at Home Eviction Relief Fund and the Homeowners Assistance Fund, if we can help save you money on your rent or on your mortgage, that's money you can use for other things. Please look at these. We shouldn't have people getting evicted when we have all these dollars that are still there. We can help you pay your internet bill if you qualify, child care assistance, community action agencies. Some qualify for Kentucky Prescription Assistance Program. We know how expensive prescription drugs are, and certainly Medicare prescription drug plan costs. So please look up these programs. They are on governor.ky.gov/tips to save for ways that you can make the end of the month a little less hard. All right, as a recap on yesterday, Brittany and I rolled up our sleeves for the new COVID-19 booster. This booster adds protection from new variants and bolsters previous vaccination protection. Listen, we are in a much better place than when we first got vaccines. In fact, the WHO said today that the end is in sight. That sounds pretty good to me. But we still continue to lose dozens of people each week. There's a common thread for almost all the people that we're losing. They're either unvaccinated or haven't gotten all of their boosters. Brittany and I want to encourage everybody to get this crucial protection. It is safe. It is effective. Everybody in my family will be receiving it. Will got his yesterday. Lila will get hers as soon as she is eligible. Listen, we love these kids, and I would never recommend it to them if I didn't know and believe that they are safe and effective. So please protect your family. Go get the new booster. If it's been 2 months since the last shot, no matter which shot it was, you're eligible for the booster. Or if you've had COVID, and it's typically about 3 months since you've had it that you're eligible for the booster. Let's quickly go over some of the graphs and maps. Let's first look at our state map. There's still a lot of red, but certainly more green. This is a little bit better of a map than we have had if you at least go back 2 or 3 weeks. And that shows out in the graphs that we have been showing for a long time. I hope the cases are going down. In the very least, we've plateaued, and we have been plateaued. But there is some hope that this might actually represent a downward trend, because if you look at the positivity rate, which is less impacted by the at-home test, though you don't go in and get a PCR test unless you're really feeling bad. Certainly, we've now had a couple weeks of decline in it. Still too early, to say if we are in a true decline, but it does look promising. And if you will show the hospitalization, that obviously lags cases, but does appear to be leveling out after it was increasing for several months. Generally, the same thing in the ICU, which will lag behind hospitalization because once you're in the ICU, we want to get you out, but it's going to take some time to get you stabilized. And then ventilators have been pretty low the whole time, given how this variant differs from the previous ones. September is also National Recovery Month, at a time when we're reminded not only of the struggles of addiction, but also the power that we have to work together to address it. My faith teaches me that there are second chances, and we are our brother and our sister's keeper. That's why I've made it a priority to not only help Kentuckians overcome addiction, but also to implement support so they can go on to live full lives and fully participate in their communities. It goes back to my time as Attorney General, where we launched the Rocket Docket program to help those struggling get into treatment and not jail or prison. It's when we worked with lawmakers to fund treatment centers and organizations across Kentucky. So when we launched the opioid disposal program to safely dispose of dangerous medication at home, or when I filed more lawsuits against opioid manufacturers or distributors than any other attorney general in the country. Their actions harmed Kentucky in ways that most will never be able to understand, tore our communities apart, have led to the deaths of so many Kentuckians, and they need to be held fully accountable. And as governor, I've continued this work, establishing counties as recovery-ready communities in response to the signing of House Bill 7 last year. There's signing House Bill 90 to provide eligible individuals the alternative of receiving treatment for a behavioral health disorder instead of incarceration, and to expand recovery-ready housing. There's House Bill 362, which expanded Casey's Law. And in April, the Office of Drug Control Policy and I announced $4.9 million in grants to offer comprehensive treatment and recovery services to pregnant and parenting people. On top of that, there's the way that Medicaid now pays for recovery, which has truly led to now having a bed. There is a bed out there that we can put somebody in for anybody who's looking for treatment. That hadn't been the case in Kentucky until these last couple of years. So if you need help, please reach out and get it. You can call the Kentucky Help Call Center at 833-8KY-HELP. That's 833-859-4357. Or visit findhelpnowky.org. Or you can visit the KSP website and look at the Angels Initiative. It's been a trying couple of years, and we had a major addiction crisis even before that. So if you need help, please get it. It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to reach out for help. We want you healthy. We want you to be able to be with your family. We don't want addiction to tear you and your loved ones apart. If you need it, please get help. And finally, a little bit on public safety and our Team Kentucky All-Stars. You know, we're living in a time right now where Americans are very concerned about crime. So I want them to know that Team Kentucky is working to put more law enforcement on the streets and communities across Kentucky. From responding to crimes or safety concerns to stepping up following natural disasters or the pandemic, our officers are the brave heroes who are there for Kentuckians during their greatest times of need. It's essential that we invest in them, because through those investments, we're investing in the safety of our families. So my administration is making this a priority. Here's what we've done. We secured the largest pay raise in the history of the Kentucky State Police, a $15,000 pay raise that is now in effect. We've increased training stipends for police officers and law enforcement, sheriff's deputies, and others all across the Commonwealth to make sure we have the very best training and our officers receive it annually. It also increases the overall compensation so that it is more enticing to join law enforcement in each and every community. We've put enhanced benefits in place for retired KSP troopers to continue their law enforcement career because we need them. We've invested in recruitment efforts, including minority recruitment efforts, because our law enforcement needs to look more like the community and the state that they serve. And we launched the Military to Law Enforcement program, making it easier for local law enforcement to hire our military heroes that are looking for that type of career. Now, even before taking this office, public safety was a priority in my term as Attorney General. And we prosecuted more child predators than had ever been done. We worked on preventing child abuse just as much, how you recognize the signs of it, and human trafficking. We were protecting our seniors from scams and abuse, and we were seeking justice for victims of rape and sexual assault, including ending the rape kit backlog and working to stop human trafficking. And always trying to find workable solutions of a drug epidemic that oftentimes included treatment and several treatment centers that we were able to keep open at a time when they weren't or couldn't be Medicaid eligible. So, speaking of law enforcement, I want to highlight a few of our troopers and officers who were recently awarded for their heroism and dedication to the people of Kentucky. Last week, the Kentucky State Police hosted their annual sworn award ceremony to recognize these heroes for their acts of bravery. There were 75 troopers and officers honored, making this year's one of the largest events in recent years. All 75 should be commended, as well as the incredible families that support them and stand with them. Together, they make unimaginable sacrifices for our safety. So today, I want to recognize all 75 awardees as Team Kentucky All-Stars. This includes a member of my detail, a team of which I give thanks to daily for protecting my family. But I also want to give a special shout out to the 5 of the Year recipients. And they include 2021 Public Affairs Officer of the Year, Trooper Daniel Pretty. Trooper of the Year, Trooper Elliot Young. Detective of the Year, Detective Kyler Wright. Commercial Vehicle Officer of the Year, Logan Lynch. And right there on the end, Facility Security Officer of the Year, Wayne Burke. As the final recipient, I just named Wayne. So many of us see him every day as we come in to the Capitol. And if you saw what I see on a daily basis, he is diligent. He is always doing his job in a professional manner. And you can tell how hard he works. And that if we were to have any security threat on his side of the Capitol, that we would know and be able to respond. So congratulations to all of them. All right, we will turn to questions. We have 3 journalists here with us, and then we have 3 on the line. We have 2 latex. We'll split them up. We'll start with Tom.
Thank you, Governor. 2 questions on federal aid for flooding. First of all, I know you sought an extension for a larger federal share of reimbursement for flood-related expenses. What's the status of that? And secondly, was the $500 award out of the fund, the state fund, jeopardize FEMA benefits for those?
The 500 was
the reimbursement percentage.
Yes. So both in the tornadoes and in the flooding, we asked the federal government to cover 100% of the cleanup and some parts of rebuilding. What they did in Western Kentucky was give us 100% for 2 categories for 30 days, but we could pick the 30 days. And so we're able to get a whole lot of the debris removal in one set of 30 days and then the emergency response in another set of 30 days. That's already been granted here. So we're already working with local leaders, emergency management to have the right set of days to capture the maximum amount of expenses. But that still leaves everything else. And the time after that 30 days, which starts out as a 75-25 split, with the federal government taking 75. We asked and were granted in the West a 90-10 share, where the federal government covers 90%. We've asked for the same here in the East, and that's pending. We just got that out the door. Carolina.
Governor, like you said earlier, the WHO has said that the end of the COVID-19 pandemic is in sight. How are you feeling about Kentucky's situation situation. Are we on par with that goal?
Well, I'm certainly thrilled that the head of the WHO says that the end of COVID is in sight. I'd like to see the end. I'd like it to be here. I'd like to move past it. I think all of us know a lot of people right now that have COVID or have had COVID recently, but most all of them have recovered, which is positive. The WHO comment is based a lot on fatalities, and we have seen our fatalities shrink significantly. But that doesn't mean we're still not losing a dozen or dozens of people each week. And so what the head of the WHO said, and I think he's right, is let's make sure we're playing the game until the very end. Let's make sure we continue to get vaccinated, to make good decisions, to look at the map and ultimately protect ourselves, because until the end might be in sight, but until we're actually at the end, this can still take lives, or it can make you pretty sick. We don't talk a lot about how much it can harm productivity. That's pretty important too, and making sure we can keep people well and at work. Anna.
Yes, Governor, thank you. I've had some questions posed to me lately that I'm going to pass on. What is your latest update or knowledge of how the Department of Education is handling shortages of not only classified but also certified positions in the school system? And have initiatives been sort of proposed and are going to be adopted to help kind of speed along the emergency certification process for people who are serving as substitutes right now?
So I haven't gotten a report recently from KDE. Anecdotally, I can tell you our school systems did a ton of work over the summer coming into the start of school to address a lot of these shortages. They have been creative. They have worked really hard, and they should be commended. We are not seeing what we saw last year in mass cancellation of bus routes. And so thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you to these school systems for how hard they've worked. We're still dealing with the shortage though. We're dealing with a teacher shortage that has been brought about by the elimination of pensions by the General Assembly. That's a huge benefit. That's a large part of compensation, and it's the only retention benefit. In other words, what do I lose if I leave teaching after 5 years instead of staying in it for 30? I continue to believe our teachers not only deserve a raise, which they do, and push for that in the next budgetary session again, but they also deserve that pension, which will keep people in and prevent this type of shortage. It's a national issue that we've got to address. And talk about one of the most important jobs in our country. I mean, my kids spend more time in school, thankfully, and with their teachers and the education they're getting than on most days I get to see them. I want the very best for them, and I know every other parent does too. All right, Karen Czar on the line.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Virginia. I'm going to piggyback on Carolina's question regarding COVID. During the pandemic, you frequently pulled out charts of other cities about the Spanish flu. If Kentucky's charts on COVID are pulled out 100 years from now, what do you think will be said about our state, what we did well, and both what we did well and where we may have faltered? Thank you.
Yeah, 100 years from now, let's hope they're not going through another epidemic, or pandemic. But if they are, let's hope it's 100 years from now, because I think one's enough for all of us. I hope when they pull it out that they have enough data and enough information to know we tried our absolute best. For those that have lost individuals, that might not be solace to hear. But we have showed up every day, as have people all over Kentucky, communally, and we have done our best. I think that you'd see that for most of the pandemic, we were sometimes even ahead of some of the advice that's out there, and that's whether or not we needed to take a step or back off of a step. But I hope the other thing that they see is we've been at war. I mean, we lost more people to this thing than World War I, World War II, and Vietnam put together. Now you might be able to add Korea, the Korean War to it. And it was an enemy that we didn't know a lot about in the beginning, and it's changed a ton with each of the variants. So the decisions we made have certainly been battlefield decisions, and I think in context, people will see that they were the best decisions that we could make. I think they'll also see that Kentucky did better than originally anticipated, but that we were also honest with our data. A lot of states aren't collecting this data anymore. A lot of states didn't go through and do the audits so that we can recognize everyone we truly lost. A lot of them were worried more about rankings or about just trying to move on from it, and that's not the right thing. So I think they'll see that we have tried our best, that we were honest about those that we lost. And I think they'll see the vast majority of Kentuckians did what it took to protect their neighbors. Joe Sonka.
Thank you. We've heard some concern about the new remote working policy in the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, that employees have to be in the office 3 days a week, and specifically concern about the recruitment and retention of social workers, which has been a problem for many years now. Just checking to see if you have heard those concerns and if there's any second guessing in the Cabinet on that policy.
Well, that is an overall state government policy. You know, the policy in just about every area of state government before COVID was 5 days a week, unless you're out doing specific jobs. The pandemic hit, and we wanted to protect everybody. So anybody who could work from home, we wanted to work from home. Now we're trying to find the balance, right? If we get a brand new social worker, how do we help them be their very best if they never see anybody else? We got to build teamwork. We've got to have opportunities for education at the workplace, which so often is when you are seeing other people, and across state government, trying to have a baseline policy that then different groups can apply for changes to it. We had a problem with some groups in state government recruiting other people because they didn't have a similar policy. On the social worker side, we haven't, and first of all, we want significant flexibility, and we believe 2 out of 5 days that you don't have to come into the office at all is flexibility. It's a more generous benefit than a lot of groups that are out there. But Joe, I also have to be able to justify our policies to a state legislature, and I think they're going to be hearing it in a hearing. And there is a second shot at a large potential raise for state employees. And I'm also trying to put us in the best position to have reasonable policies that the legislature can also agree with, that ultimately we can secure that second important raise for folks. On the social worker side itself, we've been struggling in getting new social workers before the policy. And since it's come in, it's at least on the recruitment effort, it's just been equally as difficult is what I would say. There's a broader issue there that we're going to have to do more on. Some have complained about the policy. Some have been good with it. Typically, if you got about half the people that like it and half the people that don't, maybe you've made the right decision. But I don't think our General Assembly would have accepted a teleworking policy that never had people coming in. Austin Horn.
Hey, thank you, Governor. I'm curious if you're aware of criticisms of the Cabinet for Health and Family Services that were launched by Senator Adams yesterday about the speed on the change in Medicare reimbursement specifically for child advocacy centers. And if you share any of those concerns and what the administration's general response would be to those that were brought forth.
I've been working with our child advocacy centers for the last 7 years. We had a strong relationship when I was Attorney General. I visited every single one, and they were who we worked with when we had victims of those child predators. I've pushed for and received a significant amount of additional funding for our child advocacy centers and our rape crisis centers, our domestic violence shelters in the last several budgets. But the question specifically about child advocacy centers, I think they are critical and important. They help to start the process towards securing justice and the process towards healing at the exact same time. And to everybody who works or supports one of these, we love you. The process of getting together the regulations, I'm told the cabinet has been working on it. There were some complexities in the legislation, but that should be done here in the next week or so. It needs to get done so that we can get those dollars out there. But I think any child advocacy center that you talk to would tell you that they have my 100% support, this administration's 100% support, and we're going to get it done. All right, we'll be back next week. Thank you all very much.